What up, y'all? Here we go. Good morning, Canna fam. How y'all doing? It's your boy, Chef Rodney, 117 here with the one, the only Eric Eating. How you doing?
What's up, everybody? I'm doing well. How about you, Chef Rod?
You got that little home studio set up, man. I see that real quick. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's in works.
Oh yeah, for sure. Anything interesting happened in the last week or so?
Interesting in the last week or so with me. Besides getting major plans on our new line of products coming up and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Would be actually our newest thing. We are planning a face mask and getting into like the beauty care side of things.
My girl would love that.
I don't
know how many times I will come up from the studio and she'll have a face mask on and it'll scare the shit out of me and she's chasing the dogs around the house. Man, no.
Yeah, like a charcoal kind of, and that's right. Where we have our base formula for our paint rubs and stuff, and we're kind of altering that in a few different ways.
Hell yeah. Now I got something for you today. Our guest, y'all, you don't even know. Check it out. This guy has been on the cannabis scene for years. He's one of, a well-known advocate in Vermont. He's killing it on the In the Weeds podcast, y'all. The voice, the face behind In the Weeds podcast, y'all. Let's give it up for Joseph Smith.
What's up, guys?
What up, dog? How you doing, baby?
How you guys doing today? How you guys doing?
Good.
I'm doing well, Joe.
This is fun. It's wake and bake time, right?
Oh yeah. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Oh. Look at this. Here we go. What is this? Is outdoor?
Yeah, some outdoor stuff, some blueberry too.
Y'all check this out. So if you don't ever have a filter,
right, it just comes in from the side, right? Just always
there you go. David, you want to say what's up? My sous chef is here today.
Yeah, how's it going?
What's up, David?
What up, Eric?
That's some good shit. That is really good. I like that. Yeah, dude. Thanks for coming on the show, man. For sure. Yeah, man. Tell us a little bit about In the Weeds podcast. How did it get started?
Oh man, so In the Weeds. Interestingly enough, it was kind of well before all this stuff was kind of happening on the East Coast. It was just the fact of being in the industry, talking to friends, trying to get legalization to happen, and everybody I've ever talked to that was ever knowledgeable. Everybody's on a different page, right? Everybody had a different outlook. Everybody had a different thought process. Everybody had a different way to grow, from growing to politics, right? So, you can never really get a straight answer from anybody, right? But, I mean, it's typical of most people, industry, chefs, cooking. It's all kind of the same thing. We all have our ways and styles. So it's like, but the idea was to help get the legalization pushed forward. And in Vermont, it was, got on the conversation. So about, 4 or 5 years before legalization actually happened, we started pushing for it when we started seeing it happening out west, right? And trying to get a cannabis related anything on air was silly. So at the time I was doing a DJ show. I've been a DJ a long time. I own a sound and lighting company. So I've been doing a DJ show live for about 13 years. So the idea was, I had access to this platform, and it was a community-based volunteer kind of a platform through Goddard College. So it was literally on 2 different stations, has great coverage, and the station itself has a huge following because of just the college that's attached to, the way the show works. So it has a global following. So, it took us a while. I had a lot of friends. We thought about it. I bounced ideas off people in the industry. Everybody thought it was kind of nuts, but everybody thought it was great because for my idea was to bring education forth. You know what I mean? Not stoner radio, not like, we have fun with it now because we can, right? We're legal. Right. We can have fun with it, but for air, it can't work that way. So And then there, even at that time, there were a few podcasts that, Russ Gainville was a huge influence of mine. Obviously Joe Rogan, but like Russ Gainville was like the biggest inspiration I have, who did Marijuana Agenda. He's been on In the Weeds, which was a huge honor for me because, like, again, he's probably my biggest influence. But he was a normal spokesman. He did. He was hitting like 65 million people on podcasts, on TuneIn. Like, I'm watching these numbers going, man, people are listening to this shit. You know what I mean? Like, people are out there. They want to hear it. They need to listen to it. And we need to educate people, right? So finally, I got the station to, as legalization was happening in Vermont, we got the station to listen. You know what I mean? The guys started listening. They were like, okay, Joe, like, I've been there for a few years before that, and I came to them with this idea. I'm like, I want to do a talk show. And they're like, you're a DJ. I'm like, well, yeah, I want to do a talk show, right?
Right.
And I want to do it on cannabis. And they both just kind of looked through us. And like, obviously, we're a GAR college. So if anybody knows anything about GAR college, Fish kind of started here. It's a smokingly little heavy kind of a school, right? So literally everybody smokes weed there. So bringing it to them was interesting. Then we had to bring it to the mother station, which is Pacifica Radio. Once Pacifica Radio heard the pitch, they were like, when can these guys start? And it was like, all of a sudden, it went from like a 6-year, just like thought theory, I'm going to try to get this going, to like, hey, can you start this next Wednesday? And we're like, oh, okay.
Oh, shit. Yeah, right.
Very cool.
Right. So, and at the time, it was the first all cannabis-based talk shows in the country. That's on, because FCC airwaves are obviously owned by the government. So
Right.
it's a felony to promote a Class 1 substance. It's not just cannabis; it's anything. Like, we can't really have a heroin show.
Well, in Oregon, that's a different story now. You know what I mean?
But you know what I mean, though. So it's like these laws that surround cannabis that affect cannabis in ways that we don't always think it is. Maybe we think it's something against cannabis itself,
Right.
but no, it's just FCC airwaves, commercialized radio. You know what I mean? They won't allow it, right?
Right.
We start to hear commercials on radio now because about a year and a half ago, the FCC said we're not going to fine you guys for promoting cannabis products because we're seeing the legalization. We just, it's up to you guys, because a lot of these radio stations are run by sponsors, right? So literally, it's a sponsorship thing, kind of. So like, if you want to promote cannabis and your biggest sponsor says we're not going to be a part of that and pull their sponsorship, that's up to you, right?
Exactly.
So a lot of stations still haven't made that flip, but you can go into major cities and find cannabis ads here and there on stations that are willing to push it, that envelope,
Yeah.
right? We launched pretty much right when legalization happened in Vermont, and at that time, Mass was already legal, and then it was a hustling industry, so we were down there all the time. We were over in Maine. And we just kind of attacked it with a knowledgeable thing. We were going for an hour and a half. We had cannabis experts. We had a co-host. We had Timothy Fair, who's still on the show. We had Jesselyn Dolan, which was a nurse. So the idea was to bring in.
Speaking of Timothy Fair, not to cut you off, but I'm gonna have him on the show.
Well, Timothy's great.
Yeah.
So for Campus Solutions, the idea, and then we used to video it, and then so like in the middle of videoing it, just to kind of prove to everybody we're sitting in a real radio studio. Get to come in. It's an experience that it's different. You know what I mean? And the idea was just to have couch talk. You know what I mean? Just to talk like this. Like no pressure. Try to learn, try to inspire, try to educate. You know what I mean? There's a lot of misunderstandings out there. There's a lot of ways the industry sells things to people that are just like any other industry, like nutrients and all these different things that you technically don't need if you know how to grow right? Very little of that, people get taken advantage of, and then, the industry is open to people. So it's a beautiful industry. When we came into it, it was, hey, here's a great industry. It's open to everybody. Women is a huge part of it for us because, I support women, what I mean? Women in the industry are huge. And also, there was no racism in this industry, really. You know what I mean? We all, it was a different outlook. Most any other industry I would be in, there would be pretty prevalent, race stuff. And like, it's kind of weird now that we start to see it come back. But like when I got into it, it was like, hey, we don't care who you are. If you can grow good weed, if you're in the industry, it's all about getting legalization. It was grassroots. Like, it was open. It's honest. You know what I mean? We don't care who you are, what color you are, what sex you are. Like, everybody has pretty much an even advantage to get to the top. In our grassroots side, like obviously corporate level, we can still have that discussion about does racism still exist? Is there, different outlooks on if you have a felony or not, which sucks because a lot of the best guys in this industry, really, let's talk about it, they have felonies, man. They got felonies because they've been growing it for years. That's the guy I want running my operation, not the kid that was growing tomatoes last week. No offense to tomato growers, right? Yeah. But and unfortunately, this industry doesn't allow for it right there. So, like, the idea was to, for In the Weeds was to, educate on all fronts. You know what I mean? So the laws, right? How many times have you guys all talked to somebody within your state, within your town, within your community that doesn't understand the law at all? You know what I mean? They're walking down the road smoking a fucking bong. It's like, dude, no, you really, that's not really allowed. You know what I mean?
Maybe
like,
don't do it that way, right? Exactly.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, in Vermont, it was really weird because when we went legalization for medical, and then we went our recreational legalization, which was really fucking weird here because it was like, they were like, you can have weed on you, you can possess it in your home, and you can grow. But other than that, everything's still legal, right? So people are like running around thinking that they can go smoke anywhere they want. It's legal. They can go buy it. You know what I mean? They can walk into the dispensary. No, you know what I mean? Like, you have to get a medical card. You have to do it, these different ways. But it was like trying to educate the people before we get people in trouble. Trying to break stigmas, man. Like, we have nurses on the show that talk about health and stuff like that. So, I mean, most of the people we know get into this, are looking into this industry to get off of pharmaceutical drugs or to cure a health issue or to, it's not about getting high, really. You know what I mean? Alcohol, we're seeing in every state that we have legalized cannabis, the alcohol use is going down and significantly, right?
And uses are going down too.
Yeah, a lot of it. Opioid is in these states where we're starting to see doctors are really looking into and prescribing and using it more. It's great, but we talk about it on In the Weeds a lot, and this is one thing that bothers us, and even here in Vermont, it's like on the opioid note, there's so much help going to the opioid addicts, which is great. Right. You know what I mean? But we're still jailing people for small amounts of weed in some of these same states, and then even in some of these states where it's legal still, right? With the opioids, stuff like that, I've talked to a lot of patients, and in a lot of states, this is, the systems is what's the flawed part, because here in Vermont, if you're in an opioid program, you get caught smoking weed, they're kicking you out. Most of these opioid programs, these guys are in because they got arrested doing drugs, and it's a court order, and for them to actually smoke weed, even with a card, they could lose their, court ordered whatever they have to do for restitution, right? So they're getting kicked out of these programs. So, I mean, is that fair? You know what I mean? To me, it's like these states need to look at and approach these, all these different laws right down to like the opioid crisis. Because again, like if we were using opioids and implementing, if you're implementing cannabis in this crisis, right? What are the effects that we've seen through the states that do it? You know what I mean? It's tremendous, right? Dr. Uma talks about it all the time. There's doctors that talk about it all the time. We've had people come on that have had opioid addictions that use cannabis, and I've seen it work on a lot of people, right? Now, some people will say it's drug for drug, but I don't know if these people have ever had an opioid issue or had a best friend with heroin.
Some of them haven't. No,
you know what I mean? So it's like how.
Things too. So I've seen cannabis help in opioids and alcohol.
Yeah, man. Well, think about this the other day. Just look at the industry built around alcohol, right? And like, even though it's a legal drug, right? And everybody can go on every sidewalk in any country and find a bar, right? But, what happens when you get DUI? I'm talking to a good friend of mine now that has a DUI recently, and like, what do? You know what I mean? The system is so fucked against you, it's like, here it is, right here.
And it's funny you should mention the system, because the system's not designed to help you out or to rehab you. The system's designed to screw you so they can monetize off that. Let's face it.
Well, most of these prisons are private prisons now, right?
Exactly.
So they make money, right? And then now these prisoners are making products in their prisons, whether it's license plates or doors or car parts, or there's people doing hemp projects inside prisons. Right. I think it's great, but some note, where is that? That product's getting sold, right? There's somebody making money on some end of it, right? And then to feed a system to make money, and within a system to feed a system to keep a judge employed and to keep cops employed and to keep all these taxpayers' money is moving, to me is wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, it's like looking at these expungements. A lot of these states are really taking great looks at it. You know what I mean? Look at, we talk about Oregon, right? Like decriminalizing. People are up in arms over that. Let's talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people in our industry, in our mindsets are going, great. This is awesome, right? Because we've seen the war. We know what it can do from our end, right? But people from the legislative ends are, you know, and these other, you know, whatever belief you're in, right? Red, blue, you know,
green's the only color that matters.
Purple. Right, exactly. To me, that's all I care about, right? Samson's going nuts over here, guys. So it doesn't matter what you see. Go ahead there. Hi, buddy. It doesn't really matter to me what side you're on, but like, you know, it amazes me that people. I mean, it's a hard concept to grasp too, right? If you really think about it, it's like we're going to decriminalize heroin.
Well, I mean, look at it this way, like
for much of the stuff, but the reports, there's countries doing it. It's working.
Yeah, and it is, and that's my point. Like people, if you're going to do heroin, I would rather you do heroin like you know, somewhere safe, if you will, as safe as it can be. Let's face it. I don't condone using heroin, but if you're addicted to that and your life has led you to that point, I would rather you know, instead of ODing, someone's right there watching you and can hit you with Narcan and save your life. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed. Yeah. I also think there's like a thing of things being in the shadows.
Oh yeah.
You know, people not talking, being afraid to talk to one another. You know, just like taking the stigma away from the drugs that they're using and like realizing that most of the time there is a root cause. You know, like there's a healthy way to use cannabis too, and there's also it can be abused just like any other tool. You know, just like any other prescription medicine and things like that. So I think like I've known multiple people that, you know, aren't with us anymore from heroin addictions, and I didn't even know they were using, you know, and so for things to be people hiding it and stuff like that, like I understand why, because of stigmas and laws and how people look at you and stuff like that. But I think it's a point of all of us coming together and saying, hey, maybe it's not exactly the drugs and it's a different thing that's, you know, mental health and other traumas and other things that are going on in people's lives.
Right. I mean, because, you know, I've caught a couple of my friends, you know, they're a lot better now, you know, obviously, but I've caught a lot of my friends, you know, you'll see the track marks or something. And it's like, hey, man, what's that? Like, you know, and I'll call it out, like real talk. In my mind, yo, let me talk to you about it. You know, let's see what led you to that X, Y, and Z. And so when you call them out on it, they ain't really want to tell you what it is. They're like, oh, I hurt myself and da-da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? Dan really wants to talk to Samson, I'll tell you. But that's crazy. So that actually leads me, y'all, to the first segment of our show called This Week I Learned. Little Greg the Brain action. I gotta love that. But no, this week I learned is a little ditty that, you know, we kind of put together. It's a segment that forces us to reminisce on a lesson that we've recently learned. A day that goes by without learning anything new is a waste of a day. Now, that being said, let's take this moment to touch on how important learning is to our mental health and daily progress in becoming the people we are meant to be. So tell me, Joe, what's something that you've learned within the last week or so, and how has that impacted you or helped your life?
Oh, man, something I've learned. Well, I guess I could say I watched the Snowden documentary the other night on Netflix. So, I mean, have I learned much? No, it's just crazy, you know, government shit that, you know, I'm into, you know what I mean? You know, things that I learned. One thing I love learning about, okay, and this is great. I think a lot of people should look into this. And this is a question, and this is a topic that a lot of people misunderstand a lot, is the prohibition of cannabis, right, or hemp, right? The hemp industry back then. So, you know, John Dvorak is always digging into the history of it. So, you know, looking at it from an agricultural standpoint, you know, a lot of people forget how, you know, we look at from, you know, the hemp thrasher, the Hearst publications, the war on drugs, the Spanish Revolution, the Mexican Revolution, where, you know, they were coming in, and then obviously we had Reefer Madness, right? You know, these are the political tactics that they took for it, but, you know, in the realistic idea of it, it's the industry was a very viable industry in America prior to that. So it was a very easy industry to wipe out, unfortunately, right? And it's kind of like this. These are what I bring up in conversations, and what I consider like, the politics of today is, can this industry survive? You know what I mean? Can it survive on CBD? This what I consider a bubble. You know what I mean? You hear me talk about this, Rodney, a lot. It's like the restaurant bubble. To me, it's such a small part of what it really is that, I think we've invested so much and people invested so much into it. I'm afraid to see this bubble pop, and people are even more screwed than they are right now, in some states where there is an issue selling hemp. You know what I mean? There is an issue with people getting rid of product. There's an issue with people growing product. There's an issue with floods. There's an issue with all sorts of different things. There are states that lost money in the hemp industry this year. So, these are the things that I want to be look into. You know what I mean? Hempcrete, the industrial hemp feed. These are things I think are great, outlets for, these, other products that people just throw away or burn. You know what I mean? Because if you're just going for flour, you have stock, you have biomass. That's worth something somewhere to somebody in some project. You know what I mean? And that's where we need to start connecting the dots. You know what I mean? The industrial side of hemp needs to start in this country, start going, because that's the market where we need to sustain, making these plastic, making these biodegradable bags, you know what I mean? Making shoes, making clothing, right? But we have to make sustainable clothing that's not $60 a t-shirt, right? And how do we do that without utilizing Chinese imports? And that's what happened to us back in the day, because we're getting, imports were cheaper than what we could produce in our own country, right? And now look at where we're at. If you understand that from that time era, and then now we look at where we're exactly sitting right now in America, we go, oh fuck, you know what I mean? What's going on as far as, is this going to be the same thing? Is it going to be a viable solution? And can we make it sustain? Now, obviously the federal government's keeps throwing wrenches in these plans, and a lot of people are, having problems keeping up with it, because they're in business for years now. They got all this money invested, huge amounts on licensing, and get involved in this industry, marketing, promotions, all these things, and then they're not getting their licenses. They either have to sit on their licenses for a moment, right? We've seen a lot of companies have to do that as well. Camera is frozen, guys. I'm going to try to fix that.
No, you're all right. We can still hear you. You're good. It'll catch up.
Right. So
it'll catch up.
So in that sense, it's an interesting approach, because now we have a presidency that's changing over. We have the farm bill that's been enacted in 2018 now, so we're 2 years into it. And where are we, right? As far as the agricultural side of it, our CBD is growing. We do have some states that are opening up to hemp. We get some FDA and DEA, outlines and regulations implemented. And if you listen to their outlines and what they were talking about, even a few months ago, it's kind of scary. We're talking about Delta 8 and where that lands. We talked about this 0.3%, how hard it is to achieve this, and trying to raise that number like we've seen some countries do. In some states, Vermont, when they legalize, it's a 1% CBD, right, or THC for the CBD products, right? So it's not 0.3, so it's a little more easier for you to grow a crop, right? It sucks to talk to somebody that has a 0.4 or 0.356 that has to burn an entire crop, because the state they live in, and that's their disposal method, and they got to do it in front of the state police, and their product's gone, right? So you have those issues, but with CBD, that stuff, I think industrial hemp, we don't look at it enough. And the problem is, in this country, we don't have the manufacturing, right? So we have like one manufacturer. It's stupid expensive. It's literally cheaper for us to send our products out of country, get a manufacturer sent back in, and obviously even cheaper just to buy it. So then now we have to fight in the market where we have huge corporate domination right now from on the marketing level. Everything from drinks to tying into chains to let's talk about CHRONIclez. You know what I mean? Just ridiculously huge. You know what I mean? Some guys are failing, MedMen. You know what I mean? They're not doing that great, but most of these companies are succeeding. They're just using the market. They're approaching it like they should. But within all that, what are we doing for industrialized hemp? How can we make this product farm? If you look into fuel, like, it's not a product that we can grow enough of to sustain fuel. And I hate to
mean,
say
I look at it this way, like, so the more that we learn about cannabis and the terpenes and cannabinoids and things of that nature, the more the federal government's like, hang on a second, not only do we know, just from knowing the metric system, if you will, that we can monetize this and make money from it, because all these states, Colorado, Michigan, Illinois, Vermont, Boston, or not Boston, Massachusetts, all these places are making, dude, billions of dollars. And so the government's like, yo, we need to jump on that. And they know this. And so it's like, let's really break this down. And having said that, that actually leads us to our next segment here in the show called The Cutting Board. All right, so welcome to The Cutting Board. So The Cutting Board is a segment of the show where we just take a cannabinoid and beat the piss out of it. No, I'm joking. We take the cannabinoid, break it down for you, tell you what it is, what it does, how it helps you in your daily life, and things like that. Joe, what's your favorite cannabinoid if you got one?
Oh man, that's well, obviously THC, right? Talk about that, but no, damn man, that's a hard one because I'm a firm believer in the entourage effect, right? So
okay.
I'm one of those people that if I can't pick one, I'd like to keep them all. So how do we keep all the cannabinoids into the products that we are using, right? So curing, there's a loss. There's when you blast or use a chemical or a solvent process, extraction method, you lose a lot of cannabinoids. People don't realize this, right? So for me, if I can pick a cannabinoid, it's pretty much the fresh press stuff.
Okay.
The early press where we can keep all the cannabinoids low and slow, so when you hit it, you actually feel a different high, right? It's a different approach, right? We talked about it, like even with the cryo-cure weed, and cryo-cure weed is like one of the other best examples of a flower because none of it's cured out, none of it's transferred. It's all THCAs and CBDAs. So like when you heat it and you smoke it, it gives you a completely different high. You know what I mean? You try some of the stuff that, the skunk one, you know what I mean? So the terpenes, everything's there. It's just a quick way to evaporate the water, have it smokable in 24 hours, and now you can have the entourage effect. So Dr. Ethan Russo does a lot of research and reports on the entourage effect. So if people don't understand what that means, it's just basically, when you smoke weed or if it's cured, or even when you press it when it's cured, you still don't have the cannabinoids in it. So you're getting a THC heavy, you know what I mean, a few cannabinoids, but that's what we want, right? So for years, that's what we were doing, right? So now with science and research, we're realizing that, the way we press and the way we process and some of the way we do things where we lose a high value. So that's where I go, this is where medical go different ways for me, you know what I mean? So if I want to get fucked up in the head and go get stomped in the face, I'm going to go probably buy some really good dabs of some crazy weed that, I know it's going to be THC heavy.
Right.
But if I'm a patient, then I want to get an entourage effect. I want to find something that's going to get me through my day and manage my pain and not so much kick me in the fucking head, right?
Homeboy's dab rig, David. Damn, this is...
Right, exactly. I couldn't agree with Joe more. Like that symphony effect or entourage effect is where it's at. And
that's insane.
Yeah, and that spicy and the other flavors.
Well, it's a terpene.
Raw or full spectrum product is totally different than something especially more processed.
I mean, we talk about CBD a lot, but everybody forgets terpenes, right? Because the terpenes have a huge medical benefits, right? Will it get you fucked up and high? No, it's THC, right? We talk about Delta 9 versus Delta 8, you know what I mean? And what legally will do that stuff, right? But if you're a patient, if you take THC out of your regime, that might not be the best option for you because a lot of cancers and these other issues need a THC complement to the regime, right? Like Rick Simpson oil is THC, it's not CBD, right? Fico is THC, it's not CBD, right? It's usually a 1-to-1 balance. We talk about ratios like this a lot, especially in the medical industry where it's 1-to-1s, 2-to-1s, 3-to-1s, 4-to-1s, and due to your various issues and in the homeostasis of your cancer, right? There's a couple different ways that cancer works. So we're finding that, some THC works really prevalent with the CBD. You know what I mean? It's kind of like one is, taking it out and the one's coming back in and repairing it behind it kind of a mentality. If you want to make it easy for people, you need both, right? But the entourage effect, you There are a lot of reports out there. Is I know people that are very, hey, we consider professional smokers. They smoke a lot of weed every day. They do an edible, it doesn't touch them. You know what I mean? But they sit down and smoke. They do a dab. It doesn't really mess them up, right? Because they're just so used to a high THC content, but that's all they're getting, right? So when you give somebody a fresh pressed dab of some really good stuff that was just cut off the plant 5 days ago, and you pressed it out at 1.5 today, you know what I mean? Didn't kill a cannabinoid. That guy he sits down and he just looks at you because I hate to relate it to other drugs, but like it's almost like an ecstasy feeling where all your joints start tingling, you feel great, there's an instant smile on your face, and depending on the strain, Chef will talk about strains because we do it on our show a lot. That's how you base your day. So like if you're a patient to me, you need 3 different medications to get through your day. You know what I mean? For me, I want to wake up and get stoned. In the afternoon, I want to get stoned. In the evening, I want to get stoned. For lunch, I want to get stoned. Dinner, I just want to get stoned, right? So it doesn't matter to me. But like most of these patients, they wake up, they smoke an indica-based or take an indica-based drug. What's their day going to turn into, right? They're not going to get shit done. They're going to be on the couch. You know what I mean? Yeah. But a lot of we're trying to break stigmas and be professional and be able to work, right? The biggest thing is to stay professional, stay working, and stay focused. There's weeds that will make you clean your house 3 times over in an hour, right?
Oh yeah.
Also weeds that will,
and you'll still lose something.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll still lose something, Speaking of losing something, my favorite cannabinoid is it's definitely Delta 8. And it's just because like Delta 8 is like diet THC. I love THC, but like I love the entourage effect, but I don't like the anxiety with the Delta 9. You know what I mean? So it's like having that entourage effect minus the anxiety is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And honestly, I love like smoking my Delta 8 carts. Like, I get them from Nick at Crystalline. I love them. I bought so many back when he was able to sell them that I'm stocked up. You know what I mean? And I love sticking them in my Roken vape. I really do. This thing is amazing, dude. Like you can set the dials on it. Brian Peace turned me on to the Ganj father turned me on to these. And dude, it's just hand down one of the best things it is. Speaking of best things, why don't we just watch a commercial? And just in case you didn't know, that is Roken Vapes. Go check you out one. I love it. People love it. It's amazing, y'all. It's amazing, definitely. Now, that being said, that's part of our cannabis recommendations. Now, Joe, on In the Weeds podcast, we have a lot of guests coming up, a lot of guests we've had on. Who do we got this week, dog?
Tomorrow, we have Sarah Williams. Hemp for Healthcare in America, and she has another project in her home state. Same thing, Hemp for Healthcare in Alaska. So she's doing a lot of cool things, trying to build a website to base hemp products off of for people to find proper product for a proper price, really. You know what I mean? In this industry, it's really hard to find because, again, no regulation, so people can sell you whatever they want. So, well, yeah, that's the one thing we talk about the show. So, she'll be interesting to have on. You know what I mean? She has a great history, man, and one that we hope she'll talk about because, she's changed her life around. You know what I mean? It's going to be an interesting conversation for sure, but very, very pro hemp. You know what I mean? So she's pushing the use of hemp bags, hemp plastics, because, this is one thing, especially, here in Vermont. I don't know about the rest of the country, but, we've banned plastic straws, right?
Right.
And I get that, you know what I mean? There could be a hazard. There's, biodegradable is the way to go. And for me, being in this industry, I go, where's the cannabis? Where's the hemp-based ones, right?
Mhm.
But what drives me nuts is we put a plastic, now a paper straw through a plastic lid onto a wax glazed paper cup. And it's like, what are we really doing here, right? And I can still go get I was at my mom's house and I see a 6-pack of soda in the fridge and it's still, wrapped in a plastic ring. And I'm going, what are we doing?
What's going
here,
on?
right?
Exactly.
Where can we get everybody on the same level here, right? Because for us, and just like all of us here in this cannabis industry, sorry about my camera, my phone's freaking leaking.
You're all right. We can still hear you. We can imagine.
But the industry, right? So it's like, that's something that can be very easily used as a cannabis-based or a hemp-based plastic, right? Because it'll biodegrade.
Right.
This it has the answers to our questions, right? I still see styrofoam, drives me nuts, right?
It's terrible, yeah.
We've banned plastic bags in Vermont, so that's great. But now
That's good.
Has massive amounts of paper bags, and now I look at the paper industry and I go, okay, did this really solve anything? Because what was the plastic bag really brought into the market for? To save the fucking trees, right?
Exactly.
So most people here are trying to utilize reusable bags and stuff, but just I have it. I go in there all the time. And it's 15 cents a bag, and I come home and now I get bags of bags. What do I do with these bags, right?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, like cutting down trees to save paper and plastic and stuff like that. So let's say that hemp, being the beautiful plant that it is, can save the paper industry. Now that's what we think. Now here's the problem, and I still say it won't, and here's why. I still say it won't because I think that capitalism, being the asshole that it is, a lot of people are like, all right, bet I'm going to jump out of the plastic industry, or I'm going to jump out of the paper industry, or I'm just going to jump into the hemp industry, period. And they're going to still cut down these trees to plant, you guessed it, their hemp fields so they can make more profit.
Unfortunately, a lot of these industries will do that. I think there's a viable industry there, though. You know what I mean? I think
absolutely.
It's a cliche industry that will be there for a while. But like you said, until we can really make it cost effective to compete with a tree, people aren't going to follow that line unless they're trying to, make a point, make a statement with a hemp derived product, right?
Exactly.
We've seen Ford doing cars. We talked about it recently with BMW. They've been using hemp products in their interiors of cars since 2014, right? The i3 came out with a 14% hemp-based product in there. Right now, it's up over 20% in all their new cars, right? So, and they're doing it on a quiet note, just to be, just because they're utilizing what's available. They're trying to be eco-friendly, right? They're realizing a lot of these products can outlast, a lot of these conventional products that we have now that will mold, and like we're realizing that hemp is, it's antibacterial, right? So wouldn't it be nice to have your carpets and your car not mold out if it gets wet, right? If you leave your window down, you know what I mean? Or to be able to be cleaned easily, or there's a lot of unique structures. And for us, like, my interest is, in a couple different things, and it's more on the industrial side. It is like the homes, it's the plywood, it's the hempcrete, right? It's the animal feed, it's all these other cool little products that we can make using the weed I grew in my house, right? Or you grew in your field. It's just another outlet to utilize everything on that plant, right? But we just have to make the processing available. So, there's people making dog treats, and right now everybody's going distillate crazy, but there's other options. Like, last week we had, Chef on, right? And we're talking about raw cannabis, right? How good raw cannabis is for people's diets. Like, why can't I walk into my grocery store and find hemp hearts and cannabis leaves and things where I can bring home and purchase and bring home and help sustain another part of the market? Because, like, how many people cut their leaves off and drop them on the floor, right?
Exactly.
Pick them up and throw them out. You know what I mean? Like, they take a picture if it's big, like, oh, this is cool, right? But like, these are.
It's all perfect for composting though as well, and also like people don't realize that you can take that, make teas and stuff, and also feed it back to their plants as well. Or you said feed for animals, or like,
a lot of people are converting farms.
Garden.
A lot of people are converting farms. You know what I mean? And like for farms, there's a lot of soil regeneration projects that are happening because as you see, cannabis can actually give nitrogen back to the soil, right? Carbons. It's a great it's a great cleaner of soil. People don't realize how effective it can really be if it's utilized properly, right? Industrial hemp is, another way that people can sustain. But like, even industrial hemp market, again, in America, it's kind of like a tough market. It's like kind of like the CBD market. Everybody jumped into it. But if there's no outlet for it, or a way to get your product to the shelf, then that's fucked up, right? Because you grow it, great, we can grow it. I can grow tons of it. I can sit on thousands of pounds of it. But if I don't have a guy who's going to buy it and put it somewhere, or if it's slightly hot, then you lose your whole investment, right? In some states, you don't have the option to sell it off or do anything else with it until we can get, obviously cannabis, off of these regulations, right? I don't want to say legalized, because I'd rather see it deregulated, because that inform drops all the laws against it, right? So, if we legalize, there's still going to be laws. There's still going to be a structure that we'll have to adhere to, and there'll be levels of things. It's an agricultural product, right? So that can be used at multiple levels as a medicine to build your house with, which is what I would get. Our clothing, things like that. As long as and a lot of these guys won't move on these big projects until the government supports it, because they have to get government funding, right? Imagine if in a couple of weeks from now, next month they're talking about looking at the MORE Act, right? Imagine next month if the government said, "Fuck it, let's pull it down." You know what I mean? We're done with this fucking thing. Let's move forward. Let the states go ahead and set their own laws. You know what I mean? Which is pretty much what's probably going to happen, right? And then the states will set their own laws. Obviously, as an advocate for a long time, I love to hear that, but there's things that concern me that everybody wants that to happen. We still need government structure in certain ways where it's like, for me, it's the medical side of things. You know what I mean? Right. Because the last thing I want to see is a patient that has to move out of one state to go to another just so they can get the medical attention they need or the funding they need. Like we saw in New Jersey, right? New Jersey's forcing all their insurance suppliers to include hemp now, or medical cannabis. So now if you have a medical cannabis card in New Jersey, your insurance will cover it, right?
Nice.
That's what we need in this industry.
Speaking of medical cannabis, Eric, you were going to say something, bud.
Oh man, it lost me. He lost me with saying the talking about the insurance covering.
Yep.
That actually piqued my interest more, to be honest with you, because that's something that I'm really looking forward to happening.
Oh, absolutely.
Same thing with like protocols with doctors and stuff in hospitals on how to. A lot of them have no education at all on how to apply that to a patient. Milligrams or what to use, CBD, THC, whatever. And
exactly. Well, that's unfortunately that's the beauty of this. I don't want to say a black market, green market, right? I mean, we have operating dispensaries and doctors that are practicing with cannabis right now in legalized states that have been legal for how many years? Has California been legal now? How many years has Oregon been legal now? How many years has Mass? And let's talk. The East Coast is catching up, but the people are there. You know what I mean? The knowledge is there. The research is there. We just, again, it's everybody has the big scare of the government funding question, because all of our hospitals, all of these doctors, most of these guys, all their money traces back to government funding, right? So like you said, the biggest problem right now that we have in any sort of this medical application is the fact that doctors have no clue, right? They're not even, some of them don't want to hear it yet because they don't want to jeopardize their jobs. There's an endocannabinoid system that legitimately was just kind of rediscovered 10 years ago, right? That's something we got to be honest about, right? So up until about 10 years ago, most people didn't realize, even the best doctors in the world, that we had this, right? So now we're finding that animals have endocannabinoid systems. The plant works well with us. We have receptors that in our bodies that literally directly work with cannabis and other herbs. You know what I mean?
Another note on that is like when they genetically alter rats, mice to not produce the cannabinoids that we naturally produce in our bodies, it totally messes them up. It makes so they can't sleep, deal with stress issues, and gives them all types of health issues. And when they start feeding them plant-based ones because they're not able to produce it in their bodies, it alleviates a lot of those problems, or helps alleviate them.
Well, look at our food now. I mean, we talked about on the show with Chef, and Chef can vouch for this. I'm sure you can vouch for this. In the last 20 years since we've seen like gluten intolerances, right? When I've been a chef for many years. I've worked at 4 stars, and when I first started in the 90s, like gluten was just a thing coming on, right? But like if you look at our food curve and our consumption in the United States to processed foods, right, you'll see that back then is when processed food started to become, the adaptive food, like, those the microwave dinners, remember? Like that was a huge thing. My parents ran out and did microwave dinners. They thought it was great, right? and all these crazy shit that we went to a process facility, just in a corporate way, so we can get that $2 box of crackers on your shelf. You know what I mean?
Yes, right.
And unfortunately, there's a cost to doing or stuff organically, which sucks, right? There shouldn't be. You think that it's like cannabis, like people don't understand that. Oh, there's organic stuff's expensive. Well, yeah, every license, everything that they do, they have to send their land for 3 years. They have to pass all these stringent tests. Hopefully,
most of it has to go back to farm subsidies, though, Joe.
Oh, exactly.
When you look at like soybeans, corn, wheat, and all that stuff, they all have farm subsidies. So if you buy into certain types of seeds that you buy and you use certain types of pesticides, herbicides, if your crop fails, you still get paid based on the farm subsidies and stuff. And plus, it drives the cost way down on those processed products.
Oh my God! Don't get me going on farm subsidies, bud. Like, have you guys seen Kiss the Ground yet? I know Rodney I brought up a few times.
Yeah, I've been watching it here and there, like a little bit here and there, between doing all of the shows and like, shooting commercials and grabbing, Screw it. I'll go ahead and let you guys in on this. So Joe, you and I have been talking about like building a network, right, of just nothing but cannabis.
Oh yes.
So doing that, I've got together 9 different shows, this one included, to put on said network for you, buddy.
Sweet. We're working on getting that shit launched here really quick.
Oh yeah. So it's definitely, like with Kiss the Ground, I've been watching, I won't lie to you, Queen's Gambit, y'all, on Netflix. Oh my God.
You're sucked in.
Oh my God. Oh dude. It's just, and so then I watched that, and then I got really, really I want to say lifted, if you will, or medicated, and my neck was hurting me. I was cranking out stuff all morning, and then I watched Vampires in Brooklyn on Netflix. Yo, Method Man is a priest in that. Is a priest in that. Not to mention, if you guys have ever watched Letterkenny, oh, there goes his video. If you guys have ever watched Letterkenny, you've seen Gay on it.
Oh yeah.
Stewart's girlfriend. Yeah, she plays a female vampire dog. Badass. Like it was like the underworld that we wanted. There he is. Now we can see you, bro.
There we go. All right, let me try and get this fixed for us here.
You're all right, man. This works out good. But a lot of comments today. I love it, guys. Comments actually are great. You know what's even greater than comments? Mary Palmer, y'all. Mary Palmer. Absolutely, guys. Mary Palmer, check it out. Go to whoismarypalmer.com. Use promo code deliciously dope to save 10% off your order. Y'all definitely go check it out. You're not even gonna be mad about it. It's gnarly. I like it. I just had a t-shirt they sent me. It was a 1-to-1 ratio. It was really cool. I think they're debuting that. I probably shouldn't have showed anything, but all I did was set it, so they'll yell at me later. But long story short, y'all, you guys, this show is brought to you in part by Mary Palmer. Go check them out. I can't say enough about them, honestly. Kenny is strong with Letterkenny, y'all. A lot of comments. Charles, Erica, Robert, John, everybody. Patrick, DJ Stenny, what up? There you go, Mary Palmer. See, they're already in the comments. All of that's great, guys. And again, Joe, thanks for coming on the show. I knew you'd have, a lot to say about it. We love it, man. That's my point. So one thing that illustrates,
Joe.
Absolutely. One thing that illustrates is a passion. It's a passion. Love what you do and do what you love. You're never going to work a day in your life.
No, that's true. I mean, unfortunately, it's a tough industry to work in. You know what I mean? A lot of people struggle through it. It's not easy. COVID is really, as much as we've seen numbers go up in every sustainable thought and theory of sales throughout the country, right? There's still people struggling. There's businesses struggling in every aspect of the cannabis end, right on through. But it's remarkable that now it's essential, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Now we're talking about it as feed. We're talking about it as regeneration of crops. You know what I mean? That's where I want people to kind of like look into it more. Like we talked about the Kiss the Ground. You know what I mean? Like it really brings up agricultural issues. And it ties a lot of ideas together when it comes to climate changes. You know what I mean? Whether you believe in it or not, ways we can utilize and get carbon out of our air. You know what I mean? And the way
I
it
got
works.
a couple of questions for you in the comments, man. We've been missing out on these comments, y'all. I'm sorry.
I just found it, man.
I love it. So let's go back. Danica said she wanted to talk to Samson. I'm sure we can set that up later. Do a little video chat for you guys.
Yeah, right.
Charles was saying about the Swiss have a hardcore farm going on. I'm guessing he was talking about the hemp when we were talking about that. Danica asked if someone was currently using aquaponics on their farm. I think she was referring to the comment that Charles left. Hey, Charles, Danica, reach out to each other. Definitely. Good people to know right there. John's smoking a bowl with us. Robert says he loves hemp. Danica says hemp. Danica actually made a comment that says, something was untrue. Think big picture, converting a Christmas tree farm. It's not good for the soil. Takes 7 years to come viable Christmas tree fruition. Hemp is truly the tree that keeps on giving. I 100% agree with that. And she would be the professional there to actually go to for us. So if we're wrong about something, she's probably right.
What's what we're talking about is converting the farms over. I mean, it's very viable. You brought soybean in the tree earlier, right? Danica.
Yeah. She let me know real quick. Check it out.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to cut down any old growth forests, you know.
That right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And then we got Coria saying that we got a bunch of comments on the show being a great show. I knew it would be, y'all. I knew it would be. She asked, when is the next show? You can check us out every Tuesday and Thursday at 10:17 a.m. right here on Deliciously Dope's Daily Chronicles. Or you can check out Mr. Joe Smith, myself, Chef Rodney 117 on the In the Weeds podcast every week Wednesday at 4:20 p.m. That being said, y'all, that leads us to one of the second to last segments of the show because we're kind of running out on some time here. Daily positivity, which we're going to need with COVID and everything, but daily positivity, y'all. Little Greg the Brain arch reaction for y'all there. Now, Daily Positivity is a segment where we share something that helps us shake off the mental anguish that we've been subjected to. Let's face it, it exists. If you're denying it, who hurt you? So we share how we got through it, mentally here kind of, and we really try to include cannabis in this. So let's face it, you want a little bit of daily positivity, smoke you a joint, eat an edible, calm the hell out. You know what I'm saying? Like just vibe that shit. Now, what is a trial or tribulation that you've overcome with cannabis, Joe? And is that a daily battle or a struggle for you?
Oh man, it's a I think everybody has the anxiety thing, right? So, if people know me and my history, I was a big DJ for many years, going and playing lots of clubs and in the scene and doing music and events and working with industry guys and our company, Sound Lighting Festival. So like, there's a lot of that anxiety because it's timing. It's pulling these big things off, right? So like, obviously, smoking weed prior to that has always been a staple, right? Before you go on stage, every time everyone's like, "How do you get up in front of a mic so easily?" I'm like, "Well, I get really fucking stoned."
There we go.
And I've been doing radio for years, so get in front of a mic, I just go. You know what I mean? It's
right.
It's something just clicks and it goes, right? Whether it's in front of a stage, in front of people, DJing, hosting an event, whatever we do, right? But I'm also really comfortable in those situations. Like those are the ones I like to live in. Like I've been a chef for years, Rodney, right? Like like you, I've won folders. I've been a chef. I've done the chef industry a long time. Events, fucking banquets, the whole nine, right? So like when you live in that industry, it's 130-hour a week life, and when you manage it, it's that tenfold,
minimum,
right?
100 hours a week.
Right.
Speaking of the chef life, yo, David, what do you got going on this week, dog?
I'm doing a little pop-up, little kitchen tomorrow with some Korean beef bulgogi, chicken shawarma, and some cochina pibil.
Shawarma.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm doing some tamales and spring rolls and hummus and all that.
Killing it.
It's a lot of fun.
Definitely. We're gonna post that in some details on the Facebook and Instagram. We're gonna blow that up, y'all. It's tomorrow evening at his mom's restaurant, Williamson, Michigan. So those of you local, let's go check it out, support him. You know what I'm saying? Dude, no, that's awesome. That's fantastic.
No. Couple words I live by though are at least you have your hands, right? So especially nowadays in COVID, everybody's like feels the stress, they're under pressure, and like there's a lot going on, man, right? So people can getting, they're really getting bogged down with just everything they want to do, right? So it's just, step back, make a list, do one thing at a time, and just remember, at least you have your hands, right? Because it could be work. So it's Samson.
Samson. So Danica, I got it right. But she asked, but Joseph, do you think that weed consumption is hindering or helping your entrance to Canada? Girl, you better oh man. You got called out, Joe. There's Samson. Yeah, play behind the dog. Get behind the dog. That's it. Use the dog as a shield. You in trouble now, man. You in trouble now.
I want to talk to Samson. So
we got Samson live for you here for sure. No, it's interesting because like weed consumption for me, I'll be honest with you guys, like it's in. These gentlemen know me personally, so they know that I smoke constantly, but they also understand what I had went through to get to this point. I am a medical, card patient holder, that's as of late, but these two gentlemen, Mr. Eric and Mr. Joe, definitely helped me, kind of they didn't pull me over. They were like, listen, dude, we know you've got these issues. You have told us you are open with it. You use anyways. You might as well just go medical to be safe about it. And honestly, yeah, I mean, it was one of the smartest decisions I've ever made in my life. And it felt like a little bit of a weight has been lifted, and so it's interesting because, using these gentlemen as inspiration, again, thanks fellas. Thank you. It's allowed me to do shows like this and to really put work into that network that Joe and I are talking about. That's where Deliciously Dope really kind of steps in and goes, all right, check it out. See these mountains? I'm going to use a Jedi Force and move them like the child on The Mandalorian, y'all. That's an insane season this year, I'm telling you. But, that being said, it's like, what am I doing with my life? Well, I'm doing the things that make me happy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, dude, do what you love and you're never going to work a day in your life. I don't feel like I work, but when I look at the clock and I look at what, this show is and who I'm connected with and what I'm doing and the stigma that I'm changing and what I'm learning, I'm happy. So I don't feel stressed. I don't have those 120 hour work weeks, making absolute dirt. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm making somebody else richer by selling the sandwich that I made. I didn't really like that. You know what I'm saying? It was never really fair. The odds were stacked against you. And honestly, now people are running to chefs and going, yo, can you put weed in this? Oh, so you want me to cure you now? That's what it is. Nah, you know what I mean? Nah, I'm joking. But it's a new
relate to you there though, in a way.
Yeah, it's like the tip of the hat, if you will.
And in a way that, help like it's a greater picture now of helping more and more people in a way that people would have never imagined before.
Absolutely.
And, I'm excited to be here with y'all. These podcasts have helped me out as well, So it's helping each other.
That actually brings us to our last segment of the show, y'all. Happiness. It's funny because that smiley face in the animation there, that's how I feel when I consume cannabis, so to keep my ass out of Canada. I'm joking. I would love to go to Canada. That would be amazing. But Cooked with Cannabis. Oh, no. Funny story about that. Cooked with Cannabis on Netflix. We're actually going to, and I'm going to go ahead and name drop it because it's already been confirmed. We just don't know what day yet. But Derek Upton, Chef Derek Upton from Cooked with Cannabis on Netflix is going to be on the show. That's already confirmed. We just have to work out the date. So that's going to be fantastic. So it's really funny that you asked that question there. But happiness. So happiness in 5 words or less. Joe, go.
Happiness in 5 words or less. Oh man, Jesus. That's fucked. Oh man, I guess the big curing people with cannabis. I guess, man. Like that's just the thing, man.
I'm good with it. I love it, Eric.
Cannabis.
Relax your mind and flow down the stream. That's 6 words, but I got it from George Harrison and the Beatles. But that's something that's been going on for me the past few days, and
there you go.
It goes along with everything, that career, the happiness, doing what you love, and just not just relaxing and laying around all day, but relax your mind and let let the stream take you. You know, paddle it whatever side you want, but don't fight too much and just let your soul take you, your spirit take you where it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. So for me, y'all, I switched it up a bit. It's, hey, smoke weed every day, y'all. That's what it is. It's just that simple. I mean, it's cannabis is definitely one of those things that we can all kind of go to use as a crutch as we need it. And the only way to realize where your medication level is at, or what kind of entourage experience you want to, you have to balance it out. For me personally, I like a good 1-to-1 ratio. In my edibles, I like 100-to-10 ratio, and so I know my levels as not only a chef, but a cannabis influencer now. And, a person who's moving forward in not just one industry, but in multiple, I can definitely say that, knowing that helps me really break down what I want to do forward with, you gentlemen in tow. And honestly, dude, it's one of the best things that we can possibly do. I can't, thank you guys enough, Joe, Eric, for coming on the show every day. Dave, thanks for showing up, y'all. Everyone, thanks for, tuning in, man. This is Ben, Deliciously Dope's Daily Chronicles, with your host, Chef Rodney 117, the gorgeous Eric Eating from Mother's Infusion, and Joseph Smith, y'all, from In the Weeds podcast, y'all. We'll see you next week.
Catch you guys Wednesday, 420.
420 Wednesday, yeah, that, and then again, peace.
Saves.